everyone. It's really nice to be with you. I've been thinking about this call all week and looking forward to answering some questions for you today. I'm going to stay on with you as long as I can. It's a very beautiful day here on the mountain in Ecuador, and I'm hoping to give you a lot of nice energy from this place and offer you lots of support today. So let's jump right in on what's happening in consciousness. Several things. First, noticing with many of you and the clients that I'm seeing these days that many new things are coming through. And this is very akin to what I've also been finding for myself. So, new methods, new ideas arising from the earth, we might call them perhaps like new templates or spheres of influence, kinds of wisdom that want to come through because of your nature. And of course, you're here for this massive shift in consciousness that's spanning over the next 50 plus years. You know, we've got 100 years of work to do, and many of us will get that started. I'm finding that many folks are struggling with addictions, including me. I have my own issues, especially with alcohol. It runs in the family, but it's also alcohol is tough because it's a painkiller and it makes you more cheerful. And when you have chronic pain problems, once you get started with that kind of thing, it's really hard to manage. Other folks having trouble with food, tobacco, marijuana, other stuff, harder stuff, right? So, want to offer you something really different, a different approach to this. And on this coming weekend on Sunday at, I believe it's going to be at noon Eastern time, I'm teaching one of our quantum healing classes. Yeah, it'll be noon Eastern time. This one can stand alone. It's a method around healing addiction that I've been using for myself since I was like 25. And I've been able to avoid any really deep addiction problems. And I've been able to approach life in a different way. And so this is a different way to approach addiction. It's a more anthropologically correct way, I think. And it has to do with the fact that humans have these long relationships with substances for a reason. And I have a different take on how addiction works and why we get addicted to things. So I still use it as a way to continue my journey into healing my long lineage of addiction. And so that's really important to address. And we can be addicted to a lot of different things. And even stuff, someone asked me, can you be addicted to things like, can you be addicted to cleaning, like OCD, right? And I said, well, I've never tried this method for that, but might as well. I've been helping people with addiction for about 20 years now, and this really helps. But I don't think there's, one size fits all, that's for sure. In this class, I'm really going to talk to you about the history that we have with substances, especially because if you can understand that and why addiction is more prevalent now than before, then it's going to open you up so you don't feel guilty. That's the thing that I always found difficult around the usual addiction healing processes, is that a lot of people would always feel really guilty about being addicted to stuff. And the guilt's what kills you, right? Guilt can cause terrible illness, right? So how do we shift out of that? How do we understand how did this happen in the first place? And then reclaim much different approach from your inner self so that you can become what we might say, the true leader of your life, the true creator of your life. So I hope that you'll join me. I've tried to make it as affordable as possible. These classes usually are about 3 hours, and I'm keeping it at 47. So that's on my website under offerings if you'd like to join me, or just get the replay. And I've been transcribing my classes lately. I found a really good transcription service. Some of you have asked for more transcripts from older classes, and I have hundreds of classes. So I haven't had time to transcribe everything. But if you get this particular program, I think it's pretty cheap, and there's an option to do some free transcription. It's a funny one. It's called Otter, like an otter, an otter animal. OTTER.AI. And it's not artificial intelligence per se, but that's the website, otter.ai. So I found it to be a very excellent transcription service with very few mistakes. So you can run any classes that you have from myself or others through that if you have the MP3. And you can upload it on there and get your transcripts. Some people really like to read that. And then you can pull stuff out and work with that and have that typed up, or tape it to your mirror and start on this journey to reclaim your space. So that, and starting in January, I'm going to be teaching a different series than I've ever taught. I'm really going into a different direction. And I went to Peru for a little bit and sat by the ocean, and a lot of energy came up for me to offer you as part of my dharma, my doing of my beingness. And a lot of it, most of it, is galactic memory. And we all come from that memory. You all have had lives. If you believe in past lives, then you understand that it's not just Earth that we've been humans on. The great humans of the galaxy have lived on many, many planets in many different solar systems. And it's very important that they be acknowledged, because they had a lot of skin in the game when it came to helping to create this experiment here. And that information is really important to lay out. Furthermore, the revealing of what we might call the false constructs, it's much more than the Matrix. The Matrix was rooted in very specific things. And I want to reveal that to you. Many of you know that I studied the dark. I understand how that works. And I want to share with you what that dynamic is, so that you can start to dismantle these constructs with your attention and with your love and with your neutrality. Because the way to dismantle such things is not to rage against it. It's not to go in and start a fight. You got to go in neutral, and then you're more invincible. So I'm going to teach you how to do that. But you need to know what you're looking at, and it will be very familiar to you. Furthermore, the Earth herself has a great memory, and as the electromagnetic field disappears, she opens something up new. And I've been calling them the spheres of influence and wisdom, because they're different than templates. It's about understanding the layers of the nature of reality. And of course, reality is all around you. It's not just sort of a 2D template. It's not just a map. It's around you. And I kind of perceive it almost like a sphere. And there's lots of layers to it, because we have access to 12 dimensions, and those dimensions are opening up. So with your attention being able to know, what are these layers exactly? What does the Earth really need us to reclaim, such as natural law and the virtues therein? And furthermore, what are we here to bring through from the galactic to help us rebuild and dismantle these false constructs? And what are the tools and what are the virtues, energies, etc., that need to be utilized for the rebuilding of reality from the inside out as a creator being, with your observation, your attention, your witness, and then your action? So from January, I'm going to be teaching 2 classes a month on these things, and I'll talk more about it soon. And I'm going on John Burgos's show, and I'm actually going to be talking about that in detail pretty soon. I believe that interview is, sorry, I don't memorize my calendar. That interview's on November 3rd in the evening. So I'll be talking about this in detail and kind of opening it up, delineating exactly what I'm talking about. This is pretty esoteric stuff, but that's where reality is at now, and it's accessible finally. I feel that after the December solstice, it's an opportunity, because there's going to be such a great shattering of reality. We need to know what we're looking at. And it's very confusing, and people feel very overwhelmed right now. And many of you are noticing the people around you kind of going into a panic. That's exactly where we're at right now with the wave of consciousness. It's hitting it's kind of like in the body, it's right at the pubic bone. So it's not quite got to the root chakra, but now we're coming into survival. And that's why people are kind of going into these states of panic and wanting to have more control over their lives. And they're realizing that things aren't the way that they thought they would be. I had a conversation, for example, with my son, and he said, well, I just want to have a normal life, Mom. I want to have a job and a car, and I want to have a normal life. I want to have a career and retire. And I said, honey, I'm sorry, you're not going to have a normal life. That's not what you came for. And you're going to have to accept that at some point. He's still young, so he's got some accepting to do. But, we're not going to have a normal time anymore. There's no more normal anything. And as the electromagnetic field continues to exponentially dissipate, and what I mean by exponential is it's faster and faster and faster. And I have a correction I have to make, very public one, because I had been saying that the field was about 40 to 50% gone. And I actually was able to talk to Ben Davidson more directly, who I've been learning from about the galactic cosmological cycles for many years. And he said, actually, it's more like 30%, but it's going away so fast that we don't know exactly how fast, but it's faster and faster. And by the time the sort of 100% mark happens, it'll disappear within a matter of months, even weeks, entirely to zero. And that's when usually a magnetic pole shift occurs. So this is a 12,000 year cycle. And, of course, the last time anybody saw this was 12,000 years ago. So it's not, perfect science around this, but I want you to know where we're at. I'm not so sure 30 or 40 or even 50 is that much of a huge difference. It's all going to, the events that we're witnessing will continue to be the same. And what I mean by that is that animals are going to continue to act weird, and it's just going to get weirder. And humans are going to act weirder, and that's going to get weirder too. And the plants, I've been getting a lot of reports from all sorts of people all over the world and reading reports that the plants are acting weird as well. They're growing strange or not growing at all. Like, I planted a whole package of seeds the other day, and only a few came up. And that's been a common complaint from a lot of the people I'm hearing from. Seeds aren't growing, or plants are actually growing mutated. A lot of them look almost like they're getting burned. That's because as the electromagnetic field disappears, now we don't just have UVA and UVB, we have UVC. That's hitting the earth as well. And that's new. We haven't seen that before. And so the plants are trying to adapt to that. My animals, for example, they really need a lot of care for their back, because I have a lot of four-leggeds, and their back is being exposed to the sun a lot. And so I'm having to go out and actually really put a lot of coconut oil and sort of sunscreen them. Coconut, it has a little bit of sunscreen properties, but they're not happy in the sunshine the way they might have used to be, because things are changing so rapidly. So the other thing I want to point out is that that people had really misinterpreted the Mayan calendar, because what people don't realize is that they didn't used to have 365 days in a calendar. There was an added 5 days. It used to be 360 days, which I think makes more sense, because the earth is a sphere and we're going in spherical cycles and stuff. So 360 makes more sense to me. And so the ancient people, they added 5 days like later on onto the calendar. And, we're talking about several thousand years of difference here. And with those added 5 days, many cultures had different names for them: the unlucky days, the empty days. So the addition of those 5 days messed up the calculations of the Mayan calendar. And the real date is not 2012, it's 2046. For what? Well, the Kogi here in Colombia, in South America here, and they often come here to southern Ecuador. There's a lot of communities and sacred sites along the rivers. They'll spend 16 hours coming down those rivers here to speak with people every year. And so the Kogi have a cosmological cycle. The Mayans did too, and pretty much every ancient culture did. And those cycles were always ended by a supernova. And so the Mayan calendar says that on 2046, there'll be a supernova. Well, that actually correlates exactly with the new cosmological understandings of how the solar system and the galaxy work with the 12,000 year galactic current sheet. It matches perfectly with how the electromagnetic field is disappearing. So all this sounds really scary, but here's what Ben said too. He said the last worst event like this, the very, very worst one that happened to the earth, only 4% of the species of the earth were destroyed. And that was the very, very worst one that we know of in the past, like 500,000 years. And he said, it's really important that we understand this one's not going to be that bad. I would argue that it's humans that are making it worse. And not by being afraid of this stuff. Following and facing your fear is part of growth, right? Being prepared is part of this process. Learning about these things and recognizing it as an opportunity rather than a crisis, which is such a great ancient Chinese proverb. Crisis is always an opportunity. And that's exactly what this is. And what is this opportunity? It's the 800,000 year cycle of the human species. And we have an opportunity now to enter into that new species. Even the Kogi talk about it. And one of the best mystics to have studied the Kogi cosmology, I believe we pronounce his name Chiara Windwriter. Chiara Windwriter. He wrote the book Homo Luminous and Gaia Luminous. I highly recommend that you get those books. In fact, I have them. Hang on, I'll get them so you can see the fronts of them. All right, so let's get the camera. Okay, so this one, oh, it shows up backwards. So Gaia Luminous, it's Chiara Windwriter, Kiara Windwriter. The emergence of the new Earth. This talks in detail. I found this and I was like, are you kidding me? Because this is all the stuff I've been talking about. This was published in 2017, around the same time that I started, along with my own teacher, talking about the Great Shift. And around that same time, the concept of Homo Luminous became sort of planted into the public consciousness, and the mystics who study consciousness picked it up. So all these different people, myself included, started saying there's going to be a new species. It's called Gaia. It's called Homo Luminous. And it turns out this is part of that galactic information, that information from the Earth that needed to be seen at the right time. So no coincidences here. And that's also the exact same year that the book Quantum Anthropology came out. And that's the exact same year that I started talking about quantum anthropology as a new science, not having any idea that other people were talking about Homo Luminous and that other people were talking about quantum anthropology. I don't remember what the effect is, but there's a name for this effect when the same concept gets picked up by multiple people all over the world without them having contact. But there's a phenomena that's been studied for a long time, same time around Nikola Tesla's time, that also happened as well. So this is very exciting. So I got these books, and this book, Gaia Luminous, talks about the 12,000 year cycle in detail. Galactic superwaves, which otherwise are known as the galactic current sheet from the center of the galaxy. And then he talks about how we need to be very careful about utilizing substances to open gateways between worlds and understanding reality. He even goes to Peru and talks to these different shamans, which I thought was ironic because I was reading this while I was in Peru. I'd never been to Peru before. And then, of course, all these new concepts, the technologies, crustal displacement, he talks about all of it. And I just love this guy. I'm going to try to interview him on my New Earth Conversations show. That'll be really fun. But then he it's backward, but it says Homo Luminous, right? And this was published in, I think it was 2019. Yeah, I think it was. Yep, no, 2018. And he talks about the Kogi, the 12,000 year cycle, their cosmology, and their methods of how to work with the body as we go through this shift so that we can become this new species. I love this stuff. So I highly recommend you get these books because it just matches up perfectly. And I like his methods around the body. I have different ones, but they all match really nicely. They're similar in concept, opening the third eye, opening the heart, working with the gut and the organs. and the Three Minds. The Kogi work with the Three Minds too. And they're a very wonderful group. I hope to get to sit with them this year. I missed it last year, but they get to come. They come down, and there's a sacred farm called Finca Sagrada in Tumianuma. And it's a very, very ancient, prehistoric Stone Age site that used to be a giant temple to the divine feminine. And there's these huge boulders put into spirals. It's really cool. So I've been working with the owners of this farm to help protect it by developing what's called a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization that protects the land. And this is, anthropological dream to do something like this. And the owners are Walter and Susan Mora. And they're getting on in years, and I've been trying to help them establish that, and also working to link it to local currency, because currency can be backed by sacred land. Currency can be backed by time. Currency can be backed by watersheds. It doesn't have to be just backed by gold and silver. And we're doing sort of a triple effort right now, and we have this really great core group with half Ecuadorians, half extranjeros. It's the name for people who, otherwise known as immigrants, basically, and half men and half women. And that just happened to naturally form that way, which is so cool because I feel it's meant to be. But we've been minting our own silver $5 coins called Bilka Intis. Inti means the sun. And we also have a cryptocurrency for people who like to use things that way that's linked to the Inti. And we have a time bank that we're going to work with too. And there's a bartering system already well established here. So once we get all this done, I'm going to present it to you so you can take it into your community, and I'll show you the step-by-step of, I'm hoping by February I'll have something like well established, because we got to test some stuff out and see what works. That way it'll work for you. And then I'll connect you with some of these other bigger organizations that are helping people establish these DAOs and these other things. This is extremely exciting, because that means you can reclaim your local community and your local economy. So, I started out with a bit of doom and gloom today, because, yeah, stuff's changing. But you know why people are panicking? You know why they're going into survival? Because they're not seeing the life rafts. And these are the life rafts, right? The other project that I've told you about before. So hoping in February I'll have something to present where I can give you step by step how do you get something started like this for your own community. And it'll look different for your community. It's not going to look the exact same. It shouldn't. And how do you really change your ideas around currency and economy? That's going to be really neat. And then the other one that you've heard me talk about before are how to create electromagnetic fields that actually will help your garden grow and help the seeds grow. I haven't had the time, because I really do work very, very hard. I work pretty much 7 days a week, and I've got to change that because I keep getting sick. I work myself into the ground, and then I'm sick for a week or two, and then I'm behind, and then I work myself into the ground because I'm behind, and this cycle has to stop. So I'm really trying to back off on a lot of things, and I want you to think about that for yourself too. Where can we put our valuable time that's actually going to give us more return in the long run? That way we don't have to, slave away for empty currency, etc. And that being said, having a local currency can really be so beneficial, especially for folks who are burned out like I am. Teaching doesn't burn me out. It's psychic seeing that burns me out. And so I'm going to continue to teach and backing up from as many sessions as I've been doing. But just so you're aware, I'm not stopping entirely. It's just that you're going to have to be patient with me. But everything that I can do to support you, I will. And one of them is the creation of what I might be calling, I don't know, it looks like a magic wand. So I might call it a magic wand. Maybe that's too silly. It is kind of magical, but it creates an electromagnetic field that will help your garden grow, and it'll help your animals thrive, and it'll help your family, so that as things disappear, you still have something. And I'm making like a little model and seeing how big the field goes. And I have to experiment before I can really give you the specs for it. But I'm going to give you open source exactly how I built it, and you can change and modify it, experiment how you want. I want to make little bitty ones. I want to see if we can wear them and if that helps. And they look like a rod, and you put it in the ground, but they've got a lot going on inside of them. And you need neodymium magnets. You need quartz or black tourmaline, because when you put quartz or black tourmaline under pressure, it creates piezo frequency, which is a very powerful electromagnetic frequency, and can actually like heal bones and heal wounds and stuff. So I want to see if you wear it, if that's good enough, or does it have to actually be in the ground? And then if it really works, I'm going to build like a giant one and see what happens. That's going to be really cool. And if that works, then I'll see if my town wants to go in on building one that's really, really big. And we'll stick it in the middle of town. And that way it'll help support the Vilcabamba watershed, because we have a lot of rare animals and plants here. And I live in a very isolated valley full of diverse life that would just blow your mind. And I want to protect that. That's the job. We say protector de bosque, protector of the forest. And I think it would be de la bosque in Spanish here in Ecuador. So these are the cool things coming out of all this time. This is what we're here for. We do need to sort of face the music, but this is our chance to get active and go into action. And I get a lot of folks saying, I feel stuck, I feel stagnant. That's because you're not aware yet of what you're here to do. You're in a coat closet. And, a lot of times people come to me for sessions, and the questions are often the same, as you can imagine, because we have so much in common, right? But when people say they feel really stuck, right? And when you feel stuck, you get sick. And I have a lot of people saying that right now. So some folks have been emailing me lately, and I'm like, this is so common now. It's more common than it ever was before. And the reason is because it's time for you to really reclaim your situation and take off all the things that you thought you were. The power and weight of identity is mind-blowing. And if you're willing to get rid of everything you thought you were and go through that process, which is hard, and clean up your genetic trauma, which is hard, but it's doable. It's totally doable. There's rituals of power that you do regularly. And these rituals, when we reclaim them, human beings are made for ritual. This is one of the coolest things we do. And when you reclaim those rituals of power, then you end up being opened to your soul's memory. And that's where I'm at right now. My soul's memory is taking over, and I'm like all sparkly eyed and excited because I see the truth. I see I see the constructs of control in great detail and how they work and why they were put in place that way, and that this is not an uncommon thing. This has happened to almost every planet that humans have been on, because humanity has been hunted. The great humans of all these other star families, they were hunted, and so have we been hunted. And that's why it's time for us to stand in our greatest power, being human beings, and coming into this change, which, like Ben says, isn't going to be as bad on the ground as it seems. And that there's so much great preparation we can do, but the greatest preparation is inside of you, using self-inquiry and noticing your reactions, noticing, whether or not you manipulate people to get what you want, or noticing how certain things trigger you, or noticing judgments that you have. And then working from there to dismantle all of the identity and the programming and the cultural programming, especially, that has distorted the truth of reality. And by no means am I done. I have a lot of work to do. But, at this point on this journey of self-inquiry, I get excited when I find something new, or my teacher shows me, hey, this thing is in your way. And she so very gracefully points it out, and I get excited. It's exciting. It's very creative. It's like, ooh, okay, I'm in for this. This is great. Thank you. It's such a great grace to have that somebody who doesn't judge you, who's full of light, be able to point those things out for you, and then you really take hold of them. And so, that's the kind of thing I like to help with in session 2, with no judgment at all, because this is part of it. We learn so much from the dismantling of such structures, the structures of trauma and programming. It's very powerful work. So that's what's on the table for you. And that's what we're coming into. And there's going to be new everything, new tech. They used to, in the ancient times, they built pyramids to create electromagnetic fields. But, we have better tech now than we did then. And it's just different, right? And so now we can build other stuff. And it's going to be just as effective, probably, right? But this is what's powerful. And then new healing concepts, quantum healing and such. There was a really good quantum healing question from our quantum healing series that I wanted to bring up. Someone said, can we do genetic healing on plants and animals and other people? Can we do healing on them for that? And I want to point something out. Plants don't have trauma the way that humans do. So there's no need to do genetic healing on plants. They don't have an egoic structure or programming or culture that they have to sift through. And neither do animals. And while animals really like to receive energy healing in the moment, whenever maybe they're hurt or they're having a problem, most of the time when animals have really big problems, it's because they're connecting to your field. I remember I saw this interesting little video of this. It was like a TikTok or something, but it was on YouTube. I'm not on TikTok, and neither should you be. But the guy said, we spent $500 just to find out that the dog's limp is because the dog was copying his owner who has a limp. Because the guy broke his foot and he's limping on a crutch. And suddenly, like a week later, the dog starts doing that. And it's because animals map to your energy field. They don't have any cultural constructs and programming and ego. They're just mapping to you. Most of the time when animals are ill or having problems, it's not because they're worried about the past and suffering from some previous traumas. It's because humans. And so, yes, some animals and dogs, they've been really traumatized, and it takes them a long time to unlearn bad habits or to trust. But just by you loving them, animals are so resilient and they can bounce back. And how many hundreds of amazing rescue stories have you heard about dogs and cats who were just treated terribly, and then they were able to bounce back? Maybe they hid in the bathroom for 3 weeks, and finally they let you pet them. It's because it took them that long to trust your field, and you showed them, no, I'm trustworthy. And then they were able to heal their own trauma. And so dogs don't have the same kind of genetic mess when it comes to cultural trauma. Animals do have culture, but humans have culture with all caps, human culture. And humans are constantly exchanging culture. This idea of cultural appropriation is not correct in any way. Humans are constantly exchanging culture all the time. I mean, of course, you can watch it in language. Somebody comes up with a new hot, cool word like quantum or cool. I remember when the word sucks came to be in the language when I was a kid, and I was like, that sucks. And my mom was like, you're not allowed to say that. And now everybody says it. That kind of stuff, we adopt everyone else's culture all the time. For example, I live in Ecuador. I'm learning how to be Ecuadorian. I speak Ecuadorian Spanish. I understand the culture better. I know how to navigate. I eat the food. I can't even imagine eating food from the United States now. It makes me ill to think about. I love the food here. I've adopted the culture. I feel at home here in Ecuador. It's my home. I don't want to leave. So there's the adaptation of a culture that's constantly occurring. Culture is fluid, and it's never ever grounded in one moment, and it never stays the same ever. So that's really important to know, that it's fluid, but then we also pick up lots of terrible things and habits, and we pick up programming, because when you're trying to navigate a crazy sick culture, what's going to happen to you? You're going to get crazy and sick. That's exactly what happens to humans. And the United States is a perfect example. When I moved to Ecuador, it took me an entire year to detox physically from the culture of the area I was in, and the food and the toxins and the toxic judgment and the basically the whole thing. And then I had to get grounded with the earth here, and that was very, very different. And the energy is more primordial here. There's a lot more wilderness than it seems, and you have to be so careful here, because the jungle wants to eat you. And you walk around the forest of Kentucky, that's not the same at all. So lots of different ways that cultures change and how we have to adapt and adopt. But that's why I'm encouraging you. I'm pointing out to you that as we go forward, your culture is going to change so much, because you're here to change. And as you change from the inside, don't worry about your family members and your friends. You can't do genetic healing for other people unless they ask you to help them, but they have to do the work. That's why I didn't teach you how to do genetic healing on other people. I taught you how to do it on yourself. Because if you can do it on yourself, then when someone comes to you for healing, either via Zoom or the phone or in person, they're going to receive quite a lot of cleansing. Because when you dismantle the really tight-knit traumas of cultural programming and genetic trauma, the light of your soul is more pure. And then when somebody comes to you just to be seen and heard, for you to do energy healing on them from afar or in person, they're receiving much more than that. They are receiving a cleanup, a deep cleanup, a spray wash from the soul's light that comes from source on their genetic self too. And when you heal your genes, you heal your family. Whether you talk to them or not, you're quantumly entangled because of literal fact. You are related through quantum physics. That's why when stuff happens with my siblings or my parents, I can feel it. And the more you clean up your own genetic trauma, the more you feel the connections you have with all the friends you've ever had, all the lovers you've ever had, all the people that you care about, anybody who I've ever done a session for, we're quantumly entangled. It's not a bad thing. This is an excellent thing. We want to be quantumly entangled. That's called Indra's net. And the more you clean up, the more you feel how you're connected to every plant and animal and human, and you are quantumly entangled with this planet and everyone on it. But it starts slowly, and I can feel my children in a very deep way, whether I'm near them or not. I can feel all the men and women I've ever loved. I can feel my teacher. I can feel my friends. I can feel you because of that quantum entanglement. But it's not overwhelming. It's the other way around. It feels good because it's natural. It's part of natural law. But when you clean up your own genetic stuff, that's why I taught you how to do that in the last class, because it's you who's going to make the difference. Then you're going to help with your soul's light, which becomes more and more purified, less distorted by the genetic trauma. That goes in really deep into the fields of the people that you are around and the fields of the people that you serve. So no, you cannot do genetic healing on other people. Or really, do you need to do it on plants or animals? They're going to be healed by your genetic healing. How cool is that? And then your DNA becomes a transmitter receiver of your soul's light, which comes from Source God directly, versus what you thought you were, your identity and your cultural programming and your trauma, and like, seriously. That's why this is such a powerful dynamic, a way to work. And you keep going in. It's you. You are the node of light that lights up the world. You become more and more and more like a radiant star, literally. It's very literal. Then more light moves through your body. And that radiance, you learn how to bask in it, and you let it burn away. When you're around somebody who's done that work, like I've had the incredible honor and pleasure to be able to have that in a teacher, I know how to bask in it and let it burn everything away and let her show me what the next stuff is so that I can keep working and peeling away at my habits, my programming. And it's so beautiful and fascinating. It no longer becomes painful. It becomes pleasurable because you know that you're going to have the power of a breakthrough. And you know it because it happens every time. It's one of those natural laws. And we're going to cover these natural laws in January and onward when the time comes. So I'm really looking forward to all of that. And it's really deep, deep mysticism. I'm basically kind of doing a big shift from anthropological information into very Gnostic, esoteric mysticism. And it's something that I think it's just time now. I'm ready, and so are we. All of us are, right? It's just time. Divine timing's always in perfection, and God knows when the right time is. All right, so now it's time for me to help answer questions. And I'm going to back up through comments here. And you'll see me, if you're new to community calls, I spend this last hour answering questions, and then we'll end with a meditation. And, just scanning through. So I might be reading a little bit here. So Haman asks, how does one heal the myelotic cells, the layer of fat between the brain and the skull, which gets depleted from the mind control and the tech that humans are subjected to? What tech is specifically causing this damage? Fabulous question. So that layer between the skull and the brain above here is really important. And pretty much all of the latest tech, including Wi-Fi and everything from there, has been damaging that. And then, of course, we get bombarded by UVA, B, and C now, and probably there's going to be D and E, and who knows, maybe Z. That's the amazing part about all this. We don't know exactly what we're getting bombarded with truly yet, because we haven't seen it before since 12,000 years, and now we have more sensitive tools to look at it. So Wi-Fi does that. Even electronics. You should read, if you can, get the book, The Hidden Rainbow. It talks about how disease, especially big ones, I won't say the word, actually is probably caused by electromagnetics. And it's a very compelling book because it literally delineates exactly with every major known disease that has spanned the globe. Precisely right beforehand was the introduction of a new frequency, such as radio waves or radar, and on and on. And we need to realize that the virome is not at all what we thought. It's much more based in frequency. Human well-being is frequency-based because you're a being of water, and your consciousness is frequency. And everything is made of frequency. I'm going to cover all of this in great detail. Great detail. Everything you ever wanted to know about the nature of form and reality in that way, I'm going to cover from January through March. So you're going to want to be with me during that time, because I'm really going to pick this apart in an easy way for you to understand how this works. So now, we have more new frequencies than ever before. No wonder people aren't feeling well, right? It's not what it seems, the virome. It's very different than people think. And that being said, how do you replenish this? My friends, this is why vegetarianism is only good for a very select few. And this is why eating very healthy, happy animals is very important for human beings. You need to be eating tallow. You need to be eating organs. You need to be eating fats. The idea of low-fat diet. Why do you think we have an Alzheimer's and a Parkinson's problem? It's not plaque. In fact, they never, ever, look this up for yourself. Do not trust what I'm saying. Do your own research. And I'm an avid reader of incredible amount of scientific information. My teacher was very irritated with me because of how much I read about stuff all the time, especially on my phone. If it was actually books, it might not look so bad, but it's my phone. I'm reading, I'm scrolling through, because I read really fast. And I read, and I write, and I listen to stuff. I'll listen to something different, I'll write something entirely different, and I'll be reading a science article all at the same time. because I'm a workaholic and I'm not sure if I could ever break that, but my brain is wanting to do 12 things at once. And that's how I work. But one of the things I've learned over many, many years, you need to look at Dr. Weston Price's work, and you need to eat what's in there's a cookbook called Nourishing Traditions. You should get that cookbook. Everything in there you should be eating. You need to be working with especially organ meats and fats and tallow. If you can't stomach that, if you've been vegetarian for a really long time and you really are wanting to see a difference in your body and your wellness, there is a very, very good supplement. They have a whole lot of different ones. They even have tallow and they have organs. And if you can't stomach that stuff, then you can take it in pill form. And it's called ancestralsupplement.com. And I think they're brilliant. And they have everything you could want on there. So if you can't find this stuff, because good luck trying to find all the organs anymore, really, in stores, right? Or tallow. So if you can't find that stuff and you can't stomach it, then you can take it in pill form. But you need to be eating animal fats. The non-fat diet is a nightmare. And I believe that seed oils, get away from all the seed oils. Seed oils are dangerous. They were meant to be basically lubricant for machinery, not for you. And you come from stock. Every single human culture has eaten animal products up till now. The radical vegan response is a radical response to a very radically bad animal husbandry industrial complex. So you need to make friends with your local farmers, guys, gals, and you need to go out there and especially work with people who work with animals. And you need to know where this stuff's coming from. So ancestral supplements, they guarantee that it's coming from happy, healthy beings who are treated with great dignity and respect. But humans are meant to be eating these things. And so the vegetarian, vegan, a lot of vegetarians eat like cheese and sometimes fish and eggs, but it's not enough. You need to be eating ghee at least. Butter. You need butter fat. So if you could at least put lots and lots more butter all over everything, if you prefer a vegetarian diet, just douse everything in butter. Honestly, I tried something new this past month. For 30 days, I asked my husband, please, please, please do this with me and see if it works. He has major gastrointestinal problems. He's really, really sore all the time. He has brain fog. And he has heavy metal problems because he was in extremely toxic environments growing up, and then he worked in the oil fields, which is basically hell. And then I myself also have been exposed to crazy stuff. And then, of course, the classic American diet, a lot of Velveeta. And I have major food allergies. I got injected with all of the military level vaccines as a kid. My parents didn't know. After the first few, they stopped doing that, and all my siblings are much better off. There's still allergies because of the food we're eating. I have major food allergies, and it's very, very limiting and painful. And then I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome to boot, which causes allergies as well in my siblings. A lot of pain and gastrointestinal issues. And so I asked him, I want to try something new. There's some people out there who've been going through a lot of autoimmune problems. And I decided to try, because I'd heard from multiple different sources and documentation, scientific documentation, that plants don't want you to eat them. They don't want you to eat their leaves. They don't want you to eat their stems or their roots. They want you to eat their fruit, right? Which is a lot more than you think. And they don't want you to eat seeds. That's their babies. So I said, okay, we're going to try this. Let's just eat meat, fruit, yogurt, and cheese. That's it for 30 days. So we did, and we got the kids on the diet too, because they're going to eat what we eat. I can't tell you how much better I felt. My pain went away. A lot of it. That's astounding to me. Usually on a good day with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, I'm at a 7 or an 8. That's a good day. And no wonder I crave alcohol, because alcohol depresses my nervous system, so I don't feel it as much. It's the best painkiller I've ever had. Nothing else cuts it. It dropped my pain down to a 5. Just my diet change. And it fixed my husband's gut problems. He got way more clear-headed and more stable emotionally. My kids thrived. They slept better. All of us slept better. He wasn't as sore because he works really hard on the farm. But the gut problems, he'd always had them constantly. He was suffering with it. And it went away. And same with me. So many things changed. And then I left to Peru and I got off my diet. And within 1 week, I couldn't move my hands. I was eating pancakes and eggs. And I'm a little bit allergic to eggs. But I was eating whatever I wanted. I was having dessert. I got off my diet in 1 week. My pain skyrocketed to an 8, and I couldn't move my hands. Now, I'm just one example, but there's many, and it's kind of becoming more and more popular. I want you to just look at this stuff. But if you can't necessarily handle that fully, at least go get that cookbook, Nourishing Traditions. And if you can't give up the plant food, of course, lean more towards fruit. Go for all the fruit. Get rid of the seeds. Get rid of the seed oils. Keep your salad. That's fine. But go for, things like zucchini and things that grow on a vine that look like a fruit, or on a tree that look like a fruit. I did have like a little bit of sweet potato and potato sometimes. That didn't seem to bother me as long as I took the skin off. But lots and lots of butter. Olive oil is okay, but it has to be quality. Most of the olive oil is cut with canola. You need really good quality olive oil, and that's expensive. Butter's cheaper. Grass-fed butter's really, really good for you. And when you shift away from those oils and you focus on these, and then the tallow, if you can get the tallow in, even through supplementation, that rebuilds this barrier here, and then you're less susceptible. I found, because part of the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is the demyelation of my nerves. So the coating, the protective coating of my nerves every day is slowly disappearing. And every movement I make, I'm tearing my tendons and my muscles and my joints. And that is basically like constant agony. And this made it easier. Now, I'm not expecting my pain to go away 100%. The fact that it went to a 5, I don't even remember the last time I had a 5 pain day. And it lasted the whole month when I shifted that diet. So I want you to play with this. Like I said, do your own research. Go with what feels best for you. The yogurt, I felt full all the time. I lost a lot of weight. And then when I went on my vacation, I gained a bunch back because I was eating sugar and not just fruit. Because you can have fruit and honey, but I wasn't eating, and I had like dark chocolate, but I wasn't eating anything else. And so just like I said, play with this. Diet is key right now, and that's how you can rebuild that layer there, is through your food. And you gotta, if you want the quality fat for your brain, and your brain burns that fat, the brain prefers fat. I believe very much so, and more people do too, especially many medical doctors who are cutting edge are saying the Alzheimer's and Parkinson's is from the low-fat diets that got introduced early on, some time ago, along with seed oils. And so that medical industrial complex is a very real thing, and they don't want well people because that means no profit, right? That's how it is. But these things are going to get destroyed and dismantled with our attention. Excellent. So Karen says, she's been feeling this weird void on hold, and the first chakra stuff coming up. A lot of people feeling on pause, no motivation. Y'all, you need to accept this time of rest, because as we come into December, it's going to shatter, and then you'll get your motivation back. Don't resist resting, even if you feel like you've been on hold for a very long time. Please welcome it. When we resist that, when we resist feeling the restfulness, we say, well, I feel stagnant. Well, that's because you're resisting resting, and resting is still a verb. You need to rest. Your brain and your body need to rest. We have work to do over the next few years. Please rest. Please rest. It's really important. Even if you feel like you've been doing it for like 2 or 3 years, that's because you're gonna have work to do. And you can still do lots of inner work. Take this time to learn how to really meditate if you don't already. Instead of feeling like you're not doing anything, go into a state of non-doing and allow the light to move through. And it'll dissolve all of your resistance to the non-doing state that you're being asked to do. And give that a try. So I hear this from a lot of people. I'm on hold, I'm stagnant, I'm stuck. That's words of resistance to resting. And many of you have worked very hard. Most of you. I highly doubt there's anybody on this call or who will listen to this call who hasn't worked their butt off. Right? Okay, so Sator asks, Ben Davidson at Suspicious Observers on YouTube. Go listen to especially his Q&As lately. They're brilliant. He's a little younger than me by, I think, a year. He's 39. And he is an incredibly intelligent cosmologist and astrophysicist and many, many things, quantum physicist. But he also has, I didn't know this until recently, one of his claims to fame is he studied how electromagnetics affects cellular well-being, which is pretty amazing. So he's got quite the resume. He's a special guy, and I have enjoyed being his student. Ben Davidson at Suspicious Observers. Fabulous. The void days, the unlucky days, the nothing days. Yeah, and that's okay. We tend to resist this stuff because we've been trained. This is an example of cultural conditioning. You've been trained to believe that you have to be doing something all the time. Especially me. Are you kidding me? I'm workaholic number 1. But that's cultural conditioning to resist true meditative rest. And when you meditate, you're filling up your field with light. You're allowing the light to do the work for you. It's your chance to allow the light to work on you. Try that. Alice is concerned about opening, activating, developing what she says the 13 chakras. Haven't heard that before. so that they can work in the most harmonized and balanced way. Some might be close, some are overworked. Alice, I don't work with the chakras anymore. I work with the 3 minds, which I find to be more useful. The chakras, I used to work with them, but they actually are breaking down these bigger fields in the body that are more natural. And while I think that there's clear energy centers in the different parts of the body, the ones that are sort of the grand energy centers match what I call, what we know as the golden ratio. So I work with the 3 minds, the brain, the heart, and the gut fields, which are real brains. They're actually run by neurons. And then you have the right and the left side, which denotes 6. So when you split down the middle, because we all have what we call the midline in our body when you're developing as an embryo. And so the midline, if there's any midline deformities, you're going to have very interesting things happen in your body. And so, like a tongue tie, I have a tongue tie, or a lip tie up there. And sometimes people have it down here. But when you have your midline, you split the 3 into 2, then you have 6, right? And you can see the 6 by, you have 2 shoulders, you have 2 rib cages, 2 hips, 2 knees, 2 ankles, and that's 3 divided. And so 6 is division and replication. And then you have 9, you have the 9. And so then from there, you have the 3 from the arms and the 3 from your hips, knees, ankles. And you have then another set of 3 here in the body from your joints. And 9 is the number of the infinite. Because 9 times any number, when you add the sum of all of the numbers of your times, your multiplication, it always equals 9, no matter what number you times 9 with. So if you say 9 times 4 is 36, 3 plus 9, or 3 plus 6 is 9. 9 times 7 is 63. 6 plus 3 is 9. 9 times 8 is 71. 7 plus 1 is 9. Or excuse me, it's 72. 7 plus 2 is 9. Right? So I want you to kind of think of things in that way a little bit. And then how do you get your flow back? Well, a lot of times emotional energy is what traps or overworks certain parts of the body, right? So all you empaths out there feel exhausted a lot of the time, and your heart feels sometimes even sore. People say they feel sore, they feel drained, they feel tired, because most empaths don't know how to be an empath, because there's not a bunch of master empath classes out there. I taught one. Please grab it. It's called Empaths and Entities. And I teach you how to do the empath superpower so you're not tired anymore. But you need training on how to run, how do you see and discern? How do you feel and discern? How do you know from the gut and discern the next step every day, the next move? How do you use your superpowers as a human? And furthermore, learning how to do emotional processing. All this stuckness is because of a lack of knowing how to do emotional processing. It's really that simple. And then the last thing is, okay, so you process stuff, you shift all the emotional traumas and all that work. You learn how to use your superpowers better so you're not tired. Learning how to do psychic seeing properly so that it didn't just destroy me all the time was really important. But I've also had to admit lately that I need to have a balance, because, when I'm working 7 days a week and I'm doing psychic seeing all the time, I've worn myself out. And the other day I did like this really powerful psychic seeing on the false constructs of reality. And the next day I could not get out of bed. I just slept all day, because I have to admit that psychic seeing is it takes a lot of energy, especially the type that I do and the level that I see. So, just recognizing that, pacing ourselves. We can't be working all the time. And I work a lot in my dreams, and I realize I can't be doing that. I got to tell Dream World they got to let me have my sleep. Because I work my butt off even when I'm dreaming. This is not going to work. I can't last. So I've got to pace myself. Hey, that's when you turn 40, right? You figure this out. I'm figuring it out. I'm learning how to balance. I went full speed, 1,000 miles an hour in my 20s and 30s, and now it's time for me to be paced and balanced with this. But the last piece is so important. You must meditate. You have to meditate. You have to still all your bodies, and you got to let the light take over. God's light wants to nourish you. That's why you feel stagnant and stuck and all these things, is because you're not getting your recharge. You can't get it from other people, folks. You got to get it from source direct, and that's everywhere. It's in you. It's everywhere. You got to tap into it, and you got to lay back into it. You got to let yourself. Sometimes every month I do a meditation with my teacher, and she saw me going like this while we're meditating as a group. And she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm trying not to see. And you can literally see, like, I have this, my third eye is so powerful. It's like sucking all the energy out of my forehead. But I love it. I'm leaving it there because it's so cool. And this new camera I have makes it really stand out. But she's like seeing me go like this, and she's like, it's like you're trying to shut your third eye. And I'm like, I am. But I can't. And so I'm just spending the whole meditation trying to fight seeing. Because when I meditate, I still see. I can't stop my third eye. So many of you can. Please think of that as a blessing. I can't close my third eye at all. Never have been able to. And I've begged God. Trust me. But I realized, she's like, stop doing that. She's like, just let it. It's all made of light. Whatever you see and all the thoughts, just let them arise and then let them go back into the light. Let it all exist, and you'll perceive that it's all made of particles of consciousness and light. And she's right. So I stopped struggling, and I stopped trying to stop the seeing, which isn't going to happen. And resistance is so hard to nail down. But the meditations have been so much better. I feel more empowered. I feel better. I feel lighter. I feel healthier, because I'm actually getting nourishment from Source God directly. And this is how you're going to get rebalanced, whether you use 12 or 13 chakras or 24 chakras or whatever amount of chakras, or the 3 minds or the golden ratio. It doesn't matter. Those are just configurations. Source God made up everything. So whatever you work with, at least work with the emotional processing stuff, and learn from my teacher, Lucia Rene, Luciarene. She's the best at emotional processing. Another lady who does really good processing is Pamela Wilson. And learn how to meditate and use those two, or just find new ways to meditate. I like to do gazing. That's really powerful for me. Lots of different ways, right? And if you've been doing it and you're just bored, then find a new one every month. There's so many ways to emotionally process and meditate. Get creative. It'll be really special for you. It's you time. It's self-care to learn those things. And then you won't feel the stagnancy so much. And then you can do other things and work on like genetic trauma. And you'll feel more aligned and harmonized like you really want. It works. So that's my advice. I hope that helps, Alice. Okay. Yeah, Tina's right. She said her brothers even figured out the Mayan calendar. It's hard to get it published. They don't want people to look ahead in that way, right? Yeah, morphogenic resonance, I think you're meaning, Deborah, right? Because it almost looks like morphogenic resistance. I think that's kind of what humans are going through, aren't they? Because you said resentence, but resonance and then resistance, I think, is very interesting. That's a polarity, resonance and resistance. And the morphogenic field, which is proven through biology and many other factors, which works with the butterfly effect, which is how fractals of reality work. We're going to cover this stuff in January. I can't wait. It's going to be fun. Fabulous. Yeah, I'm excited about the local currency. Yeah, and Darina points out the 100th monkey effect, yes, is a phenomena in which new behavior or ideas spread rapidly by unexplained means from one group to related groups. So this is different than what I was saying about earlier about multiple people all over the world who didn't have contact having the same ideas. The 100th monkey effect is different. It's not the butterfly effect, and it's not morphogenic resonance. I'll be honest, the term that I'm trying to think of, maybe, and we'll find it, was actually coined by the CIA because they were looking at Nikola Tesla, and at the same time they were looking at 45 other inventors who were unrelated all over the world inventing the same things as Tesla did. So I think in sort of new age concept, we might call that galactic downloads in that sort of lingo. But, it's coming from somewhere, and it's certainly not necessarily from the humans themselves. It could be coming from the Earth. It could be coming from galactic history, probably a combo of both. No one knows exactly. But the 100th monkey effect is when, and the reason they call it that is very cool. You should look at the story, because it was with these, I believe they were baboons who like to wash their food. And one monkey figured out, because the researchers, these were anthropologists, had put all these like sweet potatoes out on a sandy beach where these baboons were. And the sweet potatoes were sandy, and they'd eat it, but they didn't like the sand. And one monkey figured out that she could wash it and then eat it, and it would get the sand off. And so she kept doing that, and her little baby monkeys learned it. Then everybody else figured it out, and in no time, all the monkeys were washing them. But then they didn't just wash sweet potatoes; they just washed everything, right? And by then, nobody remembered who'd figured out how to wash the food. They just did anyway. That's the 100th monkey effect. Very fascinating. Yeah, no more burnout. That's where we're heading, right, Milena? I know. I want a magic wand too, Susan. Thank you, Joe. I can't possibly imagine being as good as Tesla, but I'm here to help. But Deborah, yeah, you're the mistake that you made with the resonance word is very cool, because it's resistance and resonance, and that pulls up a polarity for us to look at. So that was yummy and interesting. Yeah, so Karen's saying, ooh, I like that, Chris. Monolithic magic wand. Yes. Let's do that. I like that. That's great. And then so Karen says, I started a home garden last year, and the plants grow exceedingly rapid, and then they get burned. I was considering covering them. I agree. So some people were saying what they did is not covering them so much with like plastic, but taking like a chicken net, like that fine black net, that still lets lots of light and air through, but using that. And that seems to be working for people. And that's exactly the reports I've been getting. They grow really fast and then they burn. They burn. They look like they got burned. It's very strange. So give that a try. Yeah. So Susie, yes, absolutely. It's time. It's time. It's time for you to release the bondage, the trauma, the dissonance, all of it. You're not alone. You really aren't. All of us have been feeling this way. I can't tell you how much pain and illness I've had over the past year. Seriously. And there was a few times I thought, I'm probably going to die. This is it. So, sheesh, and I'm still so young. I just turned 40 on October 15th, and I can't imagine how hard it must be for anybody over the age of 40 right now. But don't give up. Don't give up. You can still move through this. There's so much for you to offer. And if you just start from the inside, start on you and your trauma. And you have been. Many of you have worked very hard on your trauma. Don't stop. It's not something you stop. It's a lifestyle. Recognize that. Don't think that you're going to get to the bottom of it all in the end. That's not how it works. Just keep going. Act it as a lifestyle. Every day there's a new curtain to open. It gets exciting. Once you start having those breakthroughs and you start feeling better and you start eating different, those three things, the emotional processing, the diet, and the meditation stuff, if you can just work with those a little bit every day, and if you break down and eat the chocolate chip cookies, don't beat yourself up. Because the guilt is going to kill us. That's ridiculous. That's just, we were taught to go buy chocolate chip cookies. This is cultural conditioning. So it's important to just notice that stuff. And then just don't buy any more of that. If you're like, I don't have the money to throw everything out and start over, then just get through what you've got. But recognize, okay, the next time you go grocery shopping, go for quality over quantity. You'll still feel satiated, I promise. Honestly, when I have eaten other stuff, I didn't ever feel good and I always felt hungry. But when I was just doing the meat, cheese, yogurt, and fruit, and as much as I wanted, I didn't want very much. And I wasn't hungry. And my tummy felt better. And so did my kids and my husband. And one day he broke down, my husband did, and he made mac and cheese. I didn't eat any. And him and the kids had diarrhea and were sick all day the next day. And he's like, you're right, Elizabeth. Because I'm like, well, experiment. I know you're craving mac and cheese right now, and you have it from, when we were buying this stuff. So eat it and see how it makes you feel. And the next day he was miserable and he was sore and he was sick, so, and he was like, wow, that was quite the experiment. And he learned a lot. And, I left on this vacation and he said, we had pancakes a couple of times and then we had tummy aches. But they've been sticking to the diet. I'm so proud he did it without me. And because he felt better. And when you start feeling better, you don't go back. And then you're not hungry anymore. And you get your mind back. And your skin looks better. I'm not wearing any makeup right now except for mascara. Can you believe that? Go back and look at any of my other videos. I have like tons of makeup on. I don't need it anymore. This stuff works. It's so cool. I feel better. You can tell I have more energy. All right. Still going through your comments here. Caroline says, she lived in Phoenix for 20 years. The last 10 years she got allergies, which got worse every year. She went to Belize 11 years ago and from day one had no more allergies. Yeah, I find that the food in South America is far better. There's far less toxins. I like what Joe says. No way out. You are quantumly entangled. It's true. Yeah, so Sarah, she doesn't want to be entangled with loves. She doesn't want to get entangled with people's stuff when she's doing healings. She doesn't want to engage with trauma. That's different. But you're quite right. Notice when you get emotionally entangled, especially those of us who want to help. I'm a helper. I think, Sarah, you are too. Helper is a very nice word to say savior complex. Because we come in and we're like, wow, I'm so smart. I want to help everybody. And it's just based in that root dynamic of arrogance, worthlessness, polarity. But as you dismantle all that, then you're like, no, I don't have to. I don't have to be entangled with my sister's stuff or my family's stuff. And I'm with you. I'm the oldest of 7, so it's really hard for me not to. But I'm able to just detach myself and say, I'm here for you. I'm loving you just as you are. I don't judge you. If you need me, I'm here. And we can talk, but I don't get involved. I don't give advice anymore, especially when I've not been asked. And when they need somebody to complain to, I just let them, and I just move it through the field like a little highway of stuff. And that's how you do the empath skill without feeling drained and getting entangled in the emotional stuff. You can do it. It's possible. Very good. So Jonathan says, I've been meeting intense despair. Seems to be an aspect of the masculine power over dynamic. The mind that fears what it cannot define or control. I feel this is collective. I think it's absolutely true. And the masculine is having an especially hard time with this. And the despair factor and the control piece, especially coming from cultural conditioning of men. And I'm going to be very clear here, the fact that most men were the patriarchy was built on their back. So they weren't necessarily they weren't the ones who were consciously running the patriarchy. That comes from the oligarchs, the elite. But instead, it was built on their backs. So they were used sort of like as a charioteer would use, their horses, but in this way, in a very bad way, right? They were the beasts of burden. They were the beasts of the breadwinner. They were the cannon fodder. And the masculine for so long has been used to drive forward the patriarchal power of power over dynamic. We might say specifically desecration and dominance and many other factors, which we will get into in next February. I'm going to be revealing these dynamics in great detail. But when you understand them, then they become revealed. And so the remedy for this, Jonathan, is more education for your mind so that the mind can understand what it's seeing. Because now it doesn't want to just think anymore. It can't think its way out of this, right? And it needs the help of the heart and the gut who can feel and know the truth. And I think that you have such a powerful mind, and men do in general. And a lot of us women were trained to focus in on the mind because that's how we were able to make better careers for ourselves and such. That's why I powered through in academia at the pace and level that I did, because I became very dominant and and kind of lost my feminine submissive energetic. So I've been trying to reclaim that a little more. But in a more natural way. So, I think with the mind, if you can get the history really clear, if you can understand the conditioning better, and not just personal, but for the collective, the true history, then it begins to reveal itself, and then you can come in and begin to remedy it with the virtues and the powers that are not masculine or feminine, but are balanced. And you remedy it by then recognizing these moments in real time, remembering that they are part of conditioning, and then slowly, like taking a thread from a sweater, you're going to unravel the conditioning. It's a slow process, but you do get really great results because you begin to feel more true masculine, true divine masculine, true divine feminine, and instead of the false constructs. So that's what I'm going to train people to do January, February, March in detail, exactly how to do this. And that's why it's on the table, and that's why many men like you are suffering with this collective pain, and the despair seems to be never ending. And you're navigating a storm, and you're kind of intuitively knowing that we're heading somewhere good, but every moment is trouble. And so that makes it much harder, because the storm is the collective and the shattering of the masculine, saying, not only do I have no control, but I don't even know what we were supposed to have control over in the first place. Because the charioteers are disappearing, they're dying, and they are changing, and their power is going away because the earth. And we can't forget that the earth is here as a player, as a factor, as a voice in all of this. And so lean on her, Jonathan. She catches you when you fall. Every time. She holds you. You stand with her. You stand on her. She loves you. And she continues to do beautiful secret things in the waves of consciousness that are really tossed up right now. Underneath is the earth pushing you the right direction with the currents of her consciousness. Don't forget that. That's what you came to dismantle, was the collective masculine many men have. And it's a powerful, powerful job to do. One day at a time. One moment at a time. And being very present with this. So I think this will be very powerful as you move forward. All right, so Sator says, what about avocado oil? Well, avocado oil is not avocado oil, it's avocado seed oil. And that's a no, because it's a seed. Coconut oil has a lot of benefits, but not as a food. Coconut oil can rebuild your enamel, and it can heal your gums, and it has a compound in it that kills the bacteria that eat teeth. And I've seen miracles happen with coconut oil. And if you do oil pulling or brush with it, try that. It's really good for the skin. It has also a healing effect from these new UVC rays and stuff. It keeps you from getting too bad. If you put a tiny little bit of zinc oxide in with some coconut, that's a great skin protectant. So coconut oil is very magical. It's fabulous for your hair. It grows your hair back when you lose hair. And I'd rather treat coconut oil as good for the outside of your body, because it's also made of a nut. So sorry about that. But you know who can eat seed oils like avocado seed oil? coconut oil, any nut oils are horses. And I've been trying to keep my horse fat. And they are able to eat that. So if you don't want to just pour it out and you have four-leggeds, you can give it to them, and that's good for them. And a little tiny bit is okay for dogs, just a little bit. And same with cats, just a tiny bit for hairballs. But otherwise, butter's better for dogs and cats because they eat animals too. So that's really key. EMF protectors. Not really sure. I don't know. I haven't seen all the data on those. A lot of people swear by them. So, it depends on how you feel. I like to mainly turn my Wi-Fi off at night, but I live in the middle of nowhere. So I don't have any EMFs out here except the Wi-Fi. Karen, it's not hidden rainbow. I'm sorry. It's called the invisible rainbow. The invisible rainbow. So that'll fix your search problem. Sorry about that. I got that wrong. All right. So another book. I have not read this, but I trust Caroline. She says The Maker's Diet by Jordan Rubin. Give that a shot. So Allie's asking about the Lyrans. I'm glad you asked. Yes, I do remember my Lyran lifetimes. What happened to them? Well, the same as all the other great humans. We decided to make new experiments and work on this one, right? So I haven't met a lot of Lyrans. Most of them have been men, like older men. And they see me and know exactly who I am. That's been interesting. I've met like 9 or 10 and they look at me and they're like, oh, I know you. I know what you're here to do. It's been very interesting. And so we're going to actually talk about the Lyrans a lot over the January, February, and March, because one of the things the Lyrans did before the experiment on Earth was made is they went as a delegation to all the great humans' planets, and they basically said, hey, give us a download of all your wisdom. What are the most precious things you've learned? And Lyrans are librarians, so we collected all of this data, and I've been calling them the spheres of wisdom. And they're like templates of wisdom, but they are more dynamic. And instead of like a lens, it's more like a lifestyle. And so, because all the great humans, Lyrans created human DNA and they planted it on a lot of planets. And at first they tried to control all that, and then they realized that was dumb. And so they relinquished, the human experience to be for everyone who got invited to such things. And a lot of planets were seeded by other great humans, so many of them are all relatives. So like the Syrians are related and to the Pleiadians, etc. And so when I say great humans, it's these particular species of humans that went through a lot of trouble just like we have, and they went through their own awakening, and then they went into a higher state of balance and harmony, and they got their golden years, and they did the same kind of, they built really amazing tech, etc. And then there was always this galactic war going on, and it's still going on because we have adversaries who want control over human DNA. I'm sure you've noticed. And that's now time for the Lyrans to bring out the library. That's part of what I'm gonna teach. It's very galactic stuff. It's from that delegation work, planet hopping to all the great humans and saying, give us your download of your wisdom and knowledge, and we'll store it in our big memory library of the soul's memory, And when the time is right here on earth, it will come forward and we'll lay it out. And it's time now. So I'm going to be approaching things from that direction, less from an anthropological one and more from a Lyran perspective. That's going to be fun. I'm very excited because it's very esoteric. It makes me slightly uncomfortable because I've been running everything through the anthropological skill set as a human. And this is so different than that. It's from this very deep memory from the beginning of human consciousness, which is much, much older than it seems. And much more dynamic and much more beautiful, much more powerful. And it's a good time to reveal all of these different aspects of wisdom. And so it doesn't really matter that I remember anything about those things. It matters that it's time for you to have access to it. That's all. And so if you don't believe in any of that stuff, that's okay. I think that you'll find the wisdom will be very profound. It's related to the virtues. It's related to natural law. And this is what's missing for our new foundation, for new culture, new earth, etc. And as you do trauma healing, as you heal your genetics, you will remember too. Most people do. And it's been a very profound and humbling and utterly terrifying journey to remember. So it's not all, queen, king, whatever stuff at all. Most, in fact, nothing like that. It's brutal. It's painful. It can be very, very traumatic on its own to remember. And then the people around you who you remember, they don't remember. I've been through that this past year and it kicked my butt. And I went through a lot of pain around that. And I learned a lot. So true remembrance is not easy at all. And it's not for the faint of heart, right? And none of you are that anyway. That's not why you're here. But I've learned fully. I've integrated it now, and now I can share it in a way that's not going to be, Miss Know-It-All, holier than thou, or savior of anything. Just a librarian. That's it. And very happy to offer that. Thanks for asking that. I think that's neat. So Susa or Susie J, I think that's how your name's pronounced. With your mom, with the Parkinson's, usually with Parkinson's folks in general, I've always suggested you got to do a heavy metal cleanse first. And a very powerful heavy metal chelator combo is to have her be eating oatmeal every day, have her be eating butter every day, have her be swishing with coconut oil. It helps pull heavy metals out of the mouth, especially if she had mercury fillings. Cilantro every day. Cilantro pulls heavy metals out. And this is for all of us, because most of us have heavy metal problems. And I think it's also really important to take some bentonite or zeolite at night. Those are clays. You can buy them in little pill forms. Just have her take one pill of zeolite, Zeolite, at night. And then the other thing, if you really need a very, very powerful heavy metal cleanse to boot, make sure you're taking that clay so that it can absorb all that stuff, is grab some IP6, inositol P6, and it chelates heavy metals out of the blood and the body. I suggest a fourth of a teaspoon. And if you go on Amazon, they have like a pure supplements or something like that. It's white packaging with orange on it. And it's, bulk supplements. And they sell a big, huge bag of IP6 for super cheap and for the whole fam. So a little bit of IP6 every day. You can put it in water and just drink that. It doesn't taste like anything. That's a powerful chelator of heavy metals as well. The other thing that you need to avoid if you don't want to do if you don't want to have too much heavy metals in your body, you need to avoid drinking alcohol while you eat. So I suggest if you're going to drink alcohol, some people like to have a glass of wine or something or a beer. Have it an hour before a meal or an hour after. Because it turns out in latest scientific studies that when you drink alcohol and you eat, you absorb more heavy metals in your body, including iron. The iron goes up in your blood, which causes the enzyme nagalase, Naga. Naga happens to be the name of an ancient Indian snake demon, which I find ironic. Nagalase goes up in the body, which feeds cancer and tumors. So try that stuff. See if it helps. And up that butter intake. Put butter on everything. Really important. Now, I don't have any guarantee, of course, I can't give you medical advice. I've just been studying diet for ages, and I study, illness and all these sorts of things. I read scientific articles, and then I share it with you what I find, and then I experiment on myself. I suggest things to people. I'm not a doctor, but try it. All this stuff's natural, and you just experiment. IP6 is natural, and see what works. And if you need more help, just come get a session with me. I can help do work if you're with your mom's permission. I can do a half hour and give her more detailed information. Again, suggestions from my psychic seeing and from this body of wisdom that comes beyond me, really. But that's something too if you need more support with your health. I love to help with the health stuff, but I can't give you medical advice. And I mainly only work with natural stuff. I try to keep up to date. And so I try to do the research so you don't have to, because who has time, really? Good. Yeah, excellent. So Deki, is speaking deeply to Jonathan here and the masculine in general. We're all experiencing, she says, Jonathan, we're all experiencing the pressure of the power over, especially internalized patriarchy. Thank you for feeling the despair so honestly, and know that I feel my heart opening to hear you. And we are here for each other on Indra's Net. That's what we're here to do. It's very key. All right, so yes, GAPS diet have my mom had a my mom and dad sometimes take in families who are struggling. In this family, like all at once, the dad lost his job and their house flooded, so they took care of this family, and most of their kids were adopted Native American children, and they struggled with behavior stuff, and they put the kids on the GAPS diet, and it turned everything around, and the kids are much happier and suffer quite a lot less from the behavioral issues that they had from bad diets and malnutrition, etc. So that was very profound to watch. My mom was very impressed with that. And like when one of their 10-year-olds would have like a sort of a temper tantrum, the mom would give the 10-year-old a spoonful of half butter, half honey, and in just a few minutes, the kid would suddenly feel better. Incredible. Also good to look at for autism and heavy metal chelation for autism. I've seen some really good studies about that. So Pamela says, would nuts be considered a fruit? No, I'm sorry. Nuts are seeds, and the plants don't want you to eat their seeds because they're the babies. So fruit would be, a peach, but then you're not going to eat the pit of a peach. Or I'll eat tomatoes, but I scrape out the seeds. Or I'll eat cucumber, but I'll scrape the seeds out. And so nuts are seeds. Avoid all nuts. They have plant poisons in them, and it can be very damaging to the gut and have long-term effects. Apparently, according to the stuff I'm reading right now in my experiment on myself, which I always do this stuff on myself first before I tell you about it. And then I might experiment with my family, and then I might suggest it to clients and they give me feedback, and that's why I'm even talking about any of this. Yes, so Lucia has some guided meditations on her website and her YouTube channel. If you go on YouTube and you look up Lucia Rene Author, because she wrote the book Unplugging the Patriarchy. So if you want to know about, how to unplug the patriarchy, how does that work? How do you unplug it? How do you unplug from it? How do you dismantle it inside of yourself? That's a good start with the cultural conditioning piece. Read her book, Unplugging the Patriarchy. It's all there. And it's a true story. And it keeps going. I've been with her the past 12 years since that book came out, and we've done a lot more work on that stuff, and I get the pleasure of getting to write about that so soon enough. Scalar energy devices. Great question, Elise. Yeah, I think scalar is amazing. It works with Indra's net, right? It works with quantum entanglement. I've seen some cool stuff come out about that. I think that's basically what quantum healing is based on, is scalar energy. It's quantum entanglement with another name, basically. Some people, do better when they don't eat dairy. Sarah says, not eating dairy, wheat, and sugar, she got watched her arthritis go away. The ancestral supplements, I would say start with the black label, which is the combo of all the organs, and the tallow. Try that. Financial forecast. Most of the currencies on the planet are backed with debt, which literally means they're worth more. They're worth less than nothing. They're worth a negative amount. And so, what is real wealth? Real wealth is land, water, good community, local currency, medicine, food. That's real wealth. If you can get most of your the currency that you've been using currently, shopping at wherever, Walmart, and put it into real world objects and upgrade yourself to more sustainability, right? Like if you get a good pressure cooker, that's also good for medical tools. It's also good for sterilization. It has lots of different, you can still use it over an open fire, if you get a nice stainless steel one without a plastic handle. There is also a way that you can turn plastic trash into gasoline and diesel. Look that up. That's another, I might put together, because my dad and I put together a bunch of survival and preparedness and sustainability stuff, but I might do another document with the the monolithic magic wand and those specs, and then the currency, local currency stuff, how to do that, how to talk to regular people about it, because it's the regular people that you need to get in on board, and people who are selling stuff, vendors, people who might sell you, that fresh butter, or barter or whatever. How do you work with that? And then how to turn plastic trash into diesel or gas. It blew my mind. There's this guy that I found on YouTube. I couldn't tell you who. He's just a random guy, and he lives on an island. And the islanders rarely get shipments of gas and diesel. And he runs certain things, including his internet, off of a little generator, right? And he has this very simple setup. It's a closed system, so there's no off-gassing, there's no poison going into the air. And all the plastic trash that washes up on shore, all of it from the ocean, he uses to make free diesel and gas to run his generators and his lawnmower. It's crazy. So this stuff's important. So I'm thinking about all this stuff. I'm compiling it in my head for you soon. As soon as I can, I'm going to get all this together for you. Because if you have that, oh my gosh, we were driving through Peru and there was trash everywhere. Everywhere. It's probably the most trashed country in the north of Peru that I've ever seen, ever. I mean, Kentucky was bad, but Peru was 100 times worse. And I thought, that's all free gas. If everybody knew that there, and I can't wait to go to some of these little town councils and be like, here, take this. Here's some specs, how to turn all your plastic trash into gas. It's going to be a game changer. Watch Peru get cleaned up in 1 year. It'll be so cool. So Holly's asking about, lead, mercury, cadmium, all that stuff. Everything I said earlier about heavy metal detox, that's exactly what I would suggest. All right, we're at the hour. Let's end with a little a meditation. And next time, if I can find out what that term was that the CIA developed. I know Eleanor was saying that it is the 100th monkey effect, but it's different. The term that I heard was different. But it's honestly, whatever. It was from the CIA. Who cares? But we get the idea. And I described why the 100th monkey effect is not what I was talking about. Because the 100th monkey effect, there has to be a line of contact between the first monkey and the 100th. There's a line of contact. And that's why this concept is different. Because this was all these people all over the world had no line of contact. There has been no line of contact, but we all understood Homo luminous at the same time. And we named it that. And I thought for a minute that, my friend had made it up, but she hadn't. And because I had heard the term first from my friend Victoria Moore, but she hadn't. And she said, no, it just kind of came to me. And I thought, this is something. And then I saw other people say, it just came to me. With the 100th monkey, there's a line of contact. So there's some other term for this. But if I can find it, if it pops up, I bet you it will. I'll talk about it next time on our community call. And it might not be terribly useful, but I'm putting it out in the field. Hey, source, if this is a useful term, let us have it. All right. So I'm sorry that I couldn't continue to support you with all these other questions, but last couple of things that are popping up, Haman, we don't need to tell the angels to take people out. We want to go ahead and tell them to get their brethren off the planet, right? The demonic are the brothers of the angels. It's important for that to be focused. We don't want to necessarily be involved in their war. We need to ask and give the permission of the angels who want our sovereign permission to remove the demonic from the planet, and that's plausible. So we don't necessarily sick angels on people, because people are going to create their own karma, right? And they're creating their own reality. And if you focus on creating your reality, then you undo the damage of the psychopaths by your own inner work. So that's my answer to you. And then lastly, Sator is asking, tahini and almond butter, also made of seeds. I know this is terrible. This means no peanut butter. But I promise you'll feel better. So tahini and almond butter are made of seeds. Same with peanut butter. Avoid all seeds. And see how it makes you feel. All right. Wonderful, amazing information with all of you, and just so many beautiful, incredible inner work that you're all doing. Fabulous, excellent, so much beauty and power in everything you're saying. And I am so excited for all of you and everything that we are accomplishing. So I feel really inspired. And thank you for helping each other. I see that. I see that I can't answer everybody's questions directly, but it's so beautiful. Thank you for helping each other. And yes, beans. Oh, I'm sorry, beans. These are all good questions. But here's how I approach food. Don't worry about what you can't eat. Focus on what you can. And although it seems narrow, it's not as narrow as you think. So fruits, all meats, all, for those of you who can do dairy, cheese and yogurt, butter, and olive oil. And stick with that. It's okay to use some herbs for seasoning and a little bit of garlic. But if you can stick with that, try it for 30 days, right? And you don't have to throw everything out. Put it in a box and put it away and say, all right, beans are seeds, anything that are seeds, nuts are seeds. And you just go through. It took me like 1 hour, went through all my foods and worked with what I had left. And I just bought more of what I had left. And then we went from there and we got creative. And there we did tuna patties with cheese on it and in a fruit salad and that kind of stuff. And we did it's really popular here, a fish stew. So we do lots of different fish in a stew. It was really yummy, and lots of roasts and with very nice fresh cheese and fruits, and it's been very fun. It's been fresh, and you feel really satiated. So focus on what you can eat, and that makes it easier. All right, quick meditation. I could really talk to you all for hours. And I really enjoy it. Thank you. And just want to connect with you on Endra's Net. So I'm going to walk you through this. Just take a deep breath with me. And just notice the core of light in your body. Some people call it the Sushumna. But that nice, beautiful core energy, it feels like an energy that's moving up and also down through the center of your body, from the center of your head, through the center of your body, and down through the perineum of your body. Let it go all the way into the earth and connect with Gaia. And let the very top of the core reach up and out to the center of the universe. Some people call it the central sun. That's because it's very dense with lots and lots of stars. And just feel that energy. Feel the energy going out your crown and around you. And then also down through the perineum and around you, the double torus. Let your heart field open up nice and big. Let it move. Let all the little particles of light move through your body. Take a deep breath. Fill your mind, right, and your third eye with light. Notice what color light comes up. Any color is fine. What comes up first? What's the first quality of light? Notice it. Let it still your mind. Now let your heart open and notice that light. What opens there in the light in your heart? Let that fill up your heart field. And right below the navel, let that fill with light. Notice what color light that is. Let it fill up your hips and your lower back. Notice how it feels to be very radiant, letting all this light move through your limbs. Take another deep breath. Let your spine also open up. Let the same amount of energy and width and breadth of that light move back and out of the back of your body so that you're evenly inside of a sphere of light. Take another deep breath. Now allow your heart to reach out to all of the people on the call and everyone who will listen, everyone you're connected to, and just notice this little tendril of light going out to everyone. Nothing that's needed. You don't need anything from them. They don't need anything from you. Just natural connection that already exists. Noticing that. Notice how it expands all around you, even below you and above you, behind you. Notice how they too are like beautiful stars radiating light. Recognize that there's a network going on here. It looks like a web. We call this Indra's net. Indra, I-N-D-R-A, Indra's net. Take a deep breath. Just be present. There's nothing needed from you. You don't need anything right now except to be present with the light. And take another deep breath. Namaste, my friends. I hope to leave you in a very high state of connection and love. And I hope that you will continue to connect with myself and everyone else on this beautiful Indra's net. Until next month, I look forward to it. Bless you.